We begin this week Chumash Beraishis, which is the fundamental Chumash of human beings. It's the foundation for what comes later. Later we can have the story of the Jewish people, and we have Yetzias Mitzrayim, we can have Matan Torah, we're going to have the mitzvahs, we have Eretz Yisrael. But first it says Sefer Toldos Odom. This is the book about people. And without understanding that, then the rest of it doesn't seem to carry enough weight. So the Gemara itself asks, Lama divra Adam yechidi? Why was Adam Rishon created one alone? The Gemara gives answers. Someone should say he's has a bigger pedigree than someone else, etc. But one of the underlying lessons that is implicit here is that an individual person is the whole world. He is the whole universe. And the Adam Yechidi is what God created. And therefore, in the story here, in the narrative, we see all of the great possibilities of what Adam Yechidi can be, and we also see the great failings and dangers that can be as well. So it's a question of how we look at it. So the Torah describes for us that a person is born ki yetzer leva Adam ra minurav. Person has an innate nature of desires. Person wants things. And therefore the test in life is, so to speak, self-restraint. The Torah does not advocate, that the state will pass laws that will take away your desires. Now there's a whole campaign about gun laws, right? You're not allowed to own a gun, but we all know that those that want a gun are going to have a gun and they're going to use it. And there's no law that prevents it. What prevents it is self-restraint. We see here in Eretz Yisrael, everybody's walking around with a gun. So what prevents chas v'sholom rampaging murder is that the person who has the gun has somehow the power to restrain himself. And that exists in every facet of society. Without the ability of self-restraint, so there is no society. So it's interesting that in our time, we have done away with self-restraint. It's not up to us. It's up to the government, it's up to the society, it's up to the police. It's not up to us anymore. And that's the downfall of Adam in Gan Eden. He can't restrain himself. She can't restrain herself. Nechmodi leinayim, tavai leinayim, oh. And therefore the Rabbanu Shalom implanted within us this idea of self-restraint. He told us, Mikol eitz hagan ochol tochel, everything is yours. But don't eat from this tree. So what is he missing? He's got everything. So what does he need this tree for? Because that's the lesson of self. That's the lesson of God gave us everything, but He told us we have to restrain ourselves. We have to be able to control ourselves. We have to be able to say no. And that's the ultimate test of human beings in every facet. Everybody potentially can steal. Everybody potentially can cheat. Chas v'sholom, the fact that there are so many automobile accidents is simply because people don't want to restrain themselves. That's the lack of self-restraint. And always the lack of self-restraint reflects itself in ultimate tragedy, in things that go wrong. So the Torah is going to present for us individuals, Adam Yechidi. So, for instance, we're going to see Avraham Avinu. We'll meet him at the end of Parshas Noach, beginning of Lech Lecha. So I saw an interesting lecture from the Attorney General of the United States. So he was remarking on the loss of morality and how that affects American society. We'll talk about it here in a different time. But he said that he went to his place of worship, and that after the service, the chairman of the Committee for Social Welfare got up and said that in their neighborhood there in Washington, D.C., there are a lot of homeless living on the street, and they have to have soup kitchens. They want to feed them naturally. So he said, not that his committee is looking for volunteers to create soup kitchens or for volunteers to go out and feed the people, but they want volunteers that will go to the government in D.C. that the government should do it for them. So that's the opposite of Adam Yechidi. That's the mindset. I don't have to do anything. We'll take care of it. So Avraham Avinu comes along. He doesn't build the welfare state. In fact, he's a very anti-governmental figure. He feeds people. He does what he can. He can't feed the whole world, but he feeds people. Vayita Avram Eshel. He has a place to eat, a place to drink, a place to stay over. Does what he can. So that's the Adam Yechidi. The Adam Yechidi is the person that does what he or she can, and doesn't look to lay it on to others. And that's the whole process of the Avos and the Imahos. Chazal say, Lo Manikor Shmo Avram Ivri. Why is he called Avram Ivri? It's not because he comes from a tribe that's called the Hebrews. Shehu me'ever echad v'kol ha'olam kulo me'ever ha'sheni. He's the Adam Yechidi. He's the only one on this side. And that was the greatness of the Jewish people throughout the ages. Is that we were the Adam Yechidi. That's what our task was. That's what we were held to. And that's what we felt we were. And that's an attitude in life. And that attitude is built upon the Chumash beraishis. And it's built upon the fact that the Rebbeinu Shalom created that within us. That is what we are. but it's also built on this fact of self-restraint. And without it, there can be no moral structure in society. There can be no way for us to exist. And we will read that next week's parsha, Noach, right? Why is the world destroyed? Because, Kemol Haaretz Chomos. Chomos means no self-restraint. You can steal, you can do, whatever you want to do. So that's the metaphor for a world that destroys itself. A society that destroys itself. And that's why Chazal always compared Noach and Avraham, because Noach was also the Adam Yechidi. But he was the Adam Yechidi that somehow couldn't save the generation, while Avraham could. So in the Chumash beraishis that we're going to study and hear and learn, part of the problem is we learn Chumash beraishis when we're children. Just like we learn to daven when we're children, etc. So it remains on that level for many people. It's Bible stories. But the Torah didn't intend that to be. The Torah intended that as we grew up, we'd see differently. If you look at Chumash beraishis when you're a mature adult, you have to see in it something that you didn't see when you were 10. And that's what the Torah wants from us. To be able to see it in the correct perspective. To raise ourselves to that level. So therefore, in the general introduction to Chumash beraishis, and what we're going to hear over the next few months, we should realize that the Torah is talking to us. And that's why Chazal said that a person should say, Mosai Yagio Masai Lamasei Avosai. When will I be like Avraham Yitzchak? What do you mean I'm going to be like Avraham Yitzchak? I can't be like my father. When am I going to be like Avraham Yitzchak? But the answer is, when will I see myself as they saw themselves? As an Adam Yechidi that can do something in the world. That is the challenge. And therefore, that's why this Chumash is the basis for everything else that follows. And because Sefer told us Adam, this is about us, it's about human beings, about what we're supposed to be. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash, Yomer, Hotz HaKadosh Baruch Hu, L'Zakos Yisrael, L'Ficha Chivu, L'Hem Torah, L'Ifot, L'Hemar, L'Hem Face, L'Hem Tzidkot, L'Hem Tzidkot, L'Hem Tzidkot,